Tune in to the Diva Hustle Show.
Guys, thanks for tuning in to the Diva Hustle Show. Today, my guest is Amanda. She's the CEO of Homeschool Family Legacy. Thanks, Amanda, for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me, Paris.
So, can you tell me the background on how you got started and what made you come up with the Homeschool Family Legacy?
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur. I like to say I'm an accidental entrepreneur. For the last 8 years, I started with an Etsy shop, like a lot of moms do,
Okay.
and kind of grew from there. Had a product-based business, and then a couple years ago, I shifted to coaching, and I was already homeschooling my kids. I was homeschooled as a kid and already trying to get everybody else to homeschool. So it was just a natural fit. And I took the leap and pivoted, and it's been a lot of fun so far.
So, what, in your opinion, what makes homeschooling a unique and valuable education choice?
Yeah, so that's a great question. When so I was homeschooled until high school. So I actually have both experiences. And I was super nervous going into high school, like kind of sweating bullets, like, oh my gosh, what if I raise my hand at the wrong time? I was kind of freaking out. But I quickly realized, like when they posted grades for the first time, I was doing better than everybody else in almost all of my classes. And I thought, oh wow. Okay, I didn't need to be nervous, but also I think I know a better way to learn than they're teaching in public school.
Okay.
So, 15-year-old girl, I decided I was never going to send my kids to public school, because what is so powerful about homeschooling, it teaches you, it gives you the opportunity, I should say, to learn how you learn.
Mhm.
So I understood immediately, like, oh, if I need to learn this concept, this is how my brain best does that because I had spent years discovering what already works for me. And I had the time and space to do that. And also, when you dive into your passions, you unravel those little things. And so I learned a lot about myself through the homeschooling process that I could then apply in an academic setting and then excel really easily. So I think that homeschooling is a great way to educate our kids because they're learning themselves
Mhm.
and then they also have the opportunity to really follow what they're passionate about.
And so homeschooling also requires a well-organized schedule. How do you guide moms into create an effective schedule and managing and balancing academics and family life?
Yeah, and this is a great question for all moms, really, right? Because even if you're a working mom or you're a homeschooling mom or a working homeschooling mom like me, we've got a lot of balls that we're juggling.
Mhm.
And so I think what's really powerful, the way we really hone in on your schedule is to get very intentional. And get
Mhm.
really intentional through discovering our vision. And so for homeschooling moms, we kind of unpack why we're homeschooling. What
Mhm.
do we want to create with this? And from there, create a schedule that will support that. And
Okay.
so if you're very academically oriented, we might spend several hours doing formal learning. But
Mhm.
if you want a more free-flowing, free-spirited learning education experience, then it's just a few hours of maybe an hour of formal learning, and then let's go outside and go to the beach. Let's
Right.
go on a trip. We went to the beach last week. Tomorrow we're going to a museum. So it gets to be really fun and playful, but it starts, a schedule is really built on being intentional with what you want to create as a
Mhm.
mom.
Right. And homeschool sometimes can feel like chaotic, because you're balancing home and your kids and you're trying to build that connection, right, with the kids. So how do you advise parents to balance to ensure that aspect that they're making sure that they're setting boundaries like with homeschooling and kids and their relationship?
Yeah, so I always like to say when we encounter resistance in our children, it's always an opportunity for connection.
Mhm.
And because we have all this time with them, we can really lean in and say, okay, I hear that you don't want to do your math homework today. Why is that, buddy? Like, what's coming up for you?
Mhm.
Maybe they just really don't like math. Like,
Right.
that's me. Or maybe it's just this one concept is really hard. Or maybe they have a headache and they didn't tell you, or they're hungry, right? But whenever we find resistance, it's an opportunity for us to get curious.
Right.
And so balancing that relationship dynamic, you can be very academically oriented as a homeschooler, as long as it's not creating conflict within that relationship and you're really helping them navigate their learning experience, which is not just, mental, but it's also emotional.
And we saw that during the pandemic. I mean, because the pandemic, a lot of people was the kids stay home. But then after the pandemic, you found that the statistics I can't recall, a lot of parents didn't have their kids return to school. They kept them homeschooled because I guess they felt the kids was and their learning environment was probably better at home.
Yeah, when COVID happened, it was kind of a hot mess for everybody. No one expected it. These poor teachers are trying to move everything online. These poor kids are at home. And so what parents, excuse me, parents were finding that home was a better learning environment for their children, and that they had more time to pursue these side avenues, and you didn't need that much time to actually do school. And
Right.
so when it's available to these families, like, well, why don't we keep them home? We can give them a better opportunity. So
Mhm.
yeah, the pandemic, I'd say almost half of the homeschoolers I talk to right now started homeschooling then.
Wow. And so I understand that there's a joyful connection when you incorporate in learning and processes. Can you share some examples of strategies that parents can infuse while they're doing homeschooling with their children?
Yeah. So again, resistance is always an opportunity for connection. That one sees me through on a lot of pushback. So that one's really helpful. But then another really great one is when you are seeing a shortcoming academically, right, in your child, and you're not quite sure like what to do next. It's really important to get a gauge of where your child is falling academically. And so sometimes curriculums will have quizzes and tests built in. And then you would want them to take it and then measure them over the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, possibly 6 weeks to see how they're faring on that same test. If you
Mhm.
don't see any progress or growth there, then there might be not necessarily a learning challenge, but that topic might be really challenging. Like I feel like in my 30s, I finally understood long division as I taught it to my oldest son, right? Um, so making sure you're taking progress markers along the way is really going to help you stay connected with your child's academic success. And you could take standardized testing, use again the tests that come with the curriculum, or kind of just have those conversations with your child if they're old enough, right? And if you really think that there might be a learning challenge there, seeking support from an occupational therapist, or even as a homeschooler, sometimes we have access, depending on your state, to public school system therapists and different, and again, OTs that can help you determine if your child maybe has dyslexia or, some kind of learning challenge. So I would definitely say keeping the progress markers academically and also really leaning in whenever there is resistance there to connection, right?
Right.
Get curious when they give you pushback.
And so we're in this digital age. How important is technology when you're at using homeschool or parents are homeschooling their kids? And how does that help with the engagement of learning?
Yeah, actually, so being a homeschool kid back in the 90s, right, we had like three curriculums to choose from, and I didn't like any of them.
Okay.
But now we have so many options, and you can do a fully online school where they're even interacting with a teacher and helping you with the grading process and all those sort of things. So, depending on your needs and how you want to homeschool, right, getting back to that homeschool vision, there's a lot of opportunities out there to really capitalize on technology. For example, my 11-year-old son, he's taking a high school biology class right now. And he watches the videos, he takes the tests, they're teaching how to take notes. Very soon, we will be dissecting a dog shark fish. I
Oh.
think that's what it's called. Oh, hey, toddler, sweetie. Go ahead and shut the door. I'm done. You're done. Good job, Wyatt. They are gone. Okay, good job. Sorry. The 4-year-old doesn't quite get it
I
sometimes.
know, trust me, I get it.
But so he's taking online high school biology. And so there's so many options out there that are available to us nowadays that weren't available when I was a kid. So technology can really elevate your homeschooling experience, depending on how you want to use it.
Right. And so, what milestones or achievements do you encourage homeschool mothers to celebrate, both academically and family connected?
Yeah, I celebrate anything that shows progress. I like to say acknowledge effort, right?
Right.
Because we can try really hard and still be getting it wrong. And we don't want our kid, and thinking about from a child's perspective, we don't want them to be discouraged. So we want to acknowledge effort, but we always want to be praising progress. And one of the keys here is to be in tune with your child's love language. Because if there are words of affirmation, like that's their love language, you want to be verbalizing these things like, oh my gosh, you got the questions right. Good job. But if their love language is touch, you could say those same things, but then you'd want to add like a back rub or a high five or something along those lines that will really help that progress sink in, and they can feel the impact and be proud of themselves.
Wow. And lastly, what advice do you have for homeschooling moms who may be starting this journey or facing challenges along the way?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're new to it, just be gracious with yourself. There is quite a learning curve to the homeschooling thing, right? You're learning about yourself in a new way, learning about each of your children in a new way, learning about a new way to educate. I mean, there's so many learning curves. So what I say about homeschool moms is you just need to be resourceful and willing. Right?
Right.
Be resourceful, we'll find the answer, and I'm willing to do whatever we need to do it. If you have those two pieces, you're going to do great. Just give yourself some grace. But if you've been homeschooling a little while and you're reaching some hiccups, that's natural because life does ebb and it does flow. And just thinking about our children's progress as, elementary school students, middle school, right? So there's going to be changes. When you focus on connection first, you
Right.
can't go wrong.
Right.
Just focus on connection first, and then things will begin to flow out. And I would always encourage, especially if your children are older, having conversations of if there's struggles coming up. Okay, how do you think we can solve this problem? And that gets a lot of buy-in on your part and also helps them create those neural pathways to solving problems.
Wow, I love that. But and Amanda, if people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, so you can come over to my website, homeschoolfamilylegacy.com. And if
Yeah.
you're either considering homeschooling or you're hitting some road bumps in homeschooling, you can sign up for a quick call with me. It's a quick win call. I know like phone calls are hard for homeschool moms because, we're balancing all the things. So it's just about 15 minutes and I'll give you a really practical next step to try out in your homeschooling. So quick win call. But then I also have the fostering intelligence through meaningful conversation that I'm happy to share. It's a course that I created, and it's really all about fostering the love of learning and talking with your kids and building strong bonds.
I love that. Well, thank you, Amanda, for stopping past and talk with us about homeschooling your business and just, we're starting a conversation because, everybody's used to their kids going to school, generations and generations. So when someone says that our kid is being homeschooled, you instantly feel the judgment coming to the room. And I just feel like now we need to have the conversation so people can look at it differently through a different lens.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so thank you for stopping past and always welcome to come back.
Thank you, Paris.
No problem.
Tune in to the shop. Diva hot to show, motivate the glow. We give you more info, think to my head to toe. I let the whole world know, I let the whole world know.